Okay, so today I'm going to be talking about the classrooms of the future and how I see classrooms looking in the next 5 years, in the next 10 years, and what I think my classroom is going to look like when I do become a teacher. So I should hopefully be a teacher in the next 4 or 5 years. And so how I see my classroom being, or how I see classrooms in general looking in 5 years from now, I definitely think there will be an increased use of VR in the classroom. Specifically with Google Cardboard, I think that resources like that will become more readily available because the more that they are produced and the more that they are used in classrooms, the cheaper they will be and the more available they will be to classrooms. I also see more movement toward technology in the classroom, especially for personalized learning and making accommodations for people who learn better different ways, as well as a change in the classroom layout. I think the classroom will become more of a space that will stimulate creativity as opposed to this typical one student for one desk lined up in a row in a classroom. I think that they'll look a lot different and maybe have more group tables or more things on the walls or more tools that are in the classroom that students will be able to use. In 10 years from now, I definitely think that one main thing that will be noticeable will be the access to technology. Right now, the technology is accessible hypothetically to everyone, but realistically, it's only accessible to wealthier schools and it's unevenly distributed. I hope and I think that in 10 years from now, the technology gap should be decreasing due to increased access to cheap technology. Hopefully, tablets and things like laptops will be available to every single student, regardless of what neighborhood you come from. And also, I think that in 10 years, there will be a much more emphasis on individualized instructions and straying away from more of a factory mindset of being the one and only way to teach. We talked about in class this one school that really tries to stray away from the factory mindset and really tries to emphasize individual students' passions to stimulate their creativity. Also, I think there'll be an increased presence of maker spaces or learning spaces that have different activities that students can use to really explore their talents and to just be creative in ways that they make things. And so I think that in 10 years from now, there'll be an increase in those spaces. Also, I think that classrooms in general will stray away from paper as more environmental issues begin to become more of the forefront of education. And as technology becomes more available, it will be easier for classrooms to go paperless. So the main things that I think in general that will change, as I mentioned before, straying away from the factory mindset. I think that can be very harmful to students who are creative and they are forced to be one thing. Also, as I mentioned before, I think the technology gap will definitely decrease just because there will be more access to technology as new ways of building technology will be created and it'll be cheaper and more accessible to everyone. Also, I think the curriculum will change because as technology continues, students need to learn how to be a good citizen online. We talked about in class this semester being a digital citizen and how you have to teach your students to be responsible online. And also, I think there will be flexibility, just not even only with the technology, but with things like maker spaces. You can be creative with your lesson plans and really create a flexible schedule for your students. And what do I think my classroom will look like? I've learned a lot of things this semester and done a lot of research. And I think that there are three main things that I definitely want to have in my classroom once I become a teacher. The first thing is using Google Cardboard. When Mrs. Davis, when we used it in class in the VR lab, that I think Google Cardboard was one of the coolest things that we did, just because I can definitely see how it can be used and it's not very expensive. And I really think that in my classroom, I'll definitely be using Google Cardboard. Also, as a makerspace, I think that the makerspaces are really important. We learned about this in the Horizon readings that we did, that the makerspace is really important to stimulate creativity and to allow students just to explore the things that they're good at and to learn more. And lastly, personalized learning. We learned a lot about this semester. This semester about how not every student learns the same, and it's important to change your lesson plan and change what you're learning and how you're learning to cater to each individual per student's needs.